Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Society on this beautiful, if somewhat autumnal, August Sunday morning here in Minneapolis. Welcome to each of you, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your pronouns, however you identify, whomever you love, whatever is breaking your heart right now, present in body in this space, present in this moment with us online, you are welcome here. It's good to be together and to gather together as a community of seekers in this place where we commit ourselves to live out our common values, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of a world community of peace, safety, and justice for all beings. And we're here together on this magnificent land that is the cultural, spiritual, and indigenous homeland of the Dakota Oyote. We offer gratitude to them and to all of the peoples who have cared for and continue to care for this land where we now make our home. Let us pledge ourselves to work for reconciliation and reparative relationships. This is work we need to commit to no matter what. First Unitarian Society is a member of the congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. My name is Phil Duran. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a member here at FUS, but I'm also a member of the Summer Assemblies team, which pitches in on those Sundays when Reverend Jullan is out of the pulpit. And today it is our honor to welcome two guest speakers. First is Reverend Shelley Dugan. She celebrates 27 years as an ordained UU minister. She has served as a chaplain in a variety of settings, including the Minnesota Veterans Home, Hazelden Rehabilitation Center, nursing homes, hospitals, and a Level 2 trauma center. Currently, she provides spiritual care to hospice patients and their families. Reverend Dugan's love of preaching has given her opportunities to meet many different UU congregations. She particularly enjoys the dialogue after the sermon and our UU theology, which expects members to bring their experiences and knowledge to the topic at hand. She lives with her husband and pets just outside of Minneapolis. Our other guest presenter is Shelley's husband, Bob Mallows. Bob has been both an IT professional and a professional actor for many years. As long as he doesn't confuse databases with Shakespeare, it all works out. He is currently in the show Come Back Little Sheba for Dark and Stormy Productions in St. Paul. If you happen to be new with us this morning, please join us for our weekly mini meal in the lower assembly hall right below this room after this service. And if you'd like to connect further, please stop by the office to sign up to receive our weekly newsletter so that you can always know what's going on around here. Of course, there's always room for families and kids here in this space. There's a particular area set aside back there. If you are interested in childcare, that is available down the hall to the left as you exit the space. And now I invite you, wherever you are, to take a moment to welcome the morning and to greet those around you and to introduce yourselves to folks you don't know. You can wave to, I believe it's that camera up there, to greet those who are online. There's also a QR code that'll be appearing on the screen to access an order of service. Welcome all. I've mislaid the opening words. Do you have them? Because I don't, oh, they're right here. Before I begin with our opening words, two special previews. One is that we will have a mini presentation by OWL, Our Whole Lives, this morning, shortly after the Ask. So it will run a little bit longer. The kitchen knows the mini meal is fine, because I know the priorities. And after Zola and Peter come up to do that program, Heather Martens, the board chair of FUS, will come up and make a special brief announcement after that. Our opening words this morning were words chosen by Reverend Dugan and shared with us earlier this week. Into this house of light and hope we gather. We do not always do all that our hearts command, but we know that life gives us new opportunities for love. We gather to stretch our minds, to deepen our spirits, to share of ourselves, and to give and receive comfort and hope. In such hours, may the burdens be eased, the soul refreshed, and thanks given for all the goodness that is ours. And I'm going to invite Perry to come up and light our chalice, and our lighting the chalice words will appear on the screen in just a moment. And I invite you to join in those. We covenant to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Thank you, Perry. Our chalice flame is now lighted in our hearts, in this space, and wherever we are gathered. I now invite you to join and speak together our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite all to rise as you are willing and able, and join with Cindy as she leads us in song number 361 in the Grace Songbook. The words, if you are using the book, help yourself, the words will be up on the screen. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Open your ears to Good morning. The First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community. We are here for each other, our neighbors, and our planet. And one manifestation of that caring is our caring team. My name is Carol Barclay, and I'm a member of the team, and we're here for you. There's always both joy and hardship in our midst. If at any time there's something that's happening to you in your life that you would like to share with the care team and this community, or if you need some support, please call the FUS office or send a note to joys and concerns at firstunitarian.org. You can also be in touch with us using the contact form on our website. Excuse me. After the assembly, you're all invited to stop by the card basket, which is downstairs during mini meal, and to send a note to someone that you're thinking of or to people that we have mentioned today in our announcements. We let you know that a few weeks ago, Terrell Brown died over the July 4th holidays. A memorial service will be held here at FUS this coming Saturday, August 30th at 1 p.m. Terrell is remembered for his many interests, including biking, travel, learning, as well as for the positivity that he brought to everything that he did. All are invited to attend. We also have news that Scott Eller is scheduled for heart bypass surgery on August 28th. Please send him and his whole family best wishes for a successful surgery and a speedy recovery. I also bring you news that members Gretchen and Roger Clements celebrated their 64th wedding anniversary this past week. We send them our love and congratulations. One more item that I'd like to add today is to thank Claire Nyquist, who takes notes for our caring team. It is a true challenge with all of the ideas back and forth, and she does the job to a T. Thank you, Claire. Love is at the center of our faith. In the following moments of silence, let's reflect on all the joys, losses, griefs, and milestones in our lives, in the lives of those we love, and in the lives of all beings. May we connect with our shared humanity, embrace and celebrate the beautiful range of human diversity, commit ourselves to showing up for those who need support, and remember all who are suffering here and around the world. A moment of silence.
As introduced earlier, I'd like to welcome Bob Mallows to the stage for two brief readings before our talk.
Threads by James A. Autry. Sometimes you just connect, like that. No big thing, maybe, but something beyond the usual business stuff. It comes and goes quickly, so you have to pay attention. A change in the eyes when you ask about the family. A pain flickering behind the statistics about a boy and a girl in school, or about seeing them every other Sunday. An older guy talks about his bride, a little affectation after 25 years. A hot-eyed achiever laughs before you want him to. Someone tells about his wife's job or why she quit working to stay home. An old joker needs another laugh on the way to retirement. A woman says she spends a lot of her salary on an au pair, and a good one is hard to find, but worth it, because there is nothing more important than the baby. Listen. In every office, you hear the threads of love and joy and fear and guilt, the cries for celebration or reassurance, and somehow you know that connecting those threads is what you are supposed to do, and business will take care of itself. Kitchen Table Wisdom by Rachel Naomi Remen. Listening is the oldest and perhaps the most powerful tool of healing. It is often through the quality of our listening and not the wisdom of our words that we are able to effect the most profound changes in the people around us. When we listen, we offer with our attention an opportunity for wholeness. Our listening creates sanctuary for the homeless parts within the other person, that which has been denied, unloved, devalued by themselves and others, that which is hidden. In this culture, the soul and the heart too often go homeless. Listening creates a holy silence. When you listen generously to people, they can hear the truth in themselves, often for the first time. And in the silence of listening, you can know yourself in everyone. Eventually, you may be able to hear in everyone and beyond everyone the unseen singing softly to itself and to you.
So it's time to sing again. We'll be doing number 368, Now Let Us Sing. So please stand as you're willing and able. And we've done this a couple of times this summer, so we won't spend a whole lot of time teaching it. But this is the two-parter with, if you like to sing the low part, do the Now Let Us Sing. Mike will lead that. And if you like to do the high part, I'll be doing the high part. Sing to the power of the blah, 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 okay? And then one word changes each time, so it's faith, and then hope, and then love, and then joy.
All right.
Sing to the
I get the box. First, I want to tell you, I am just so delighted to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a while since I've been at this congregation, and I am really, really happy to be here. So thank you. It's an almost universal truth. Everybody thinks that they are a good driver. Everybody thinks that they have a wonderful sense of humor. And everybody thinks that they're a good listener. We know otherwise, don't we? Remember learning about communication? All about breaking things down into sending and receiving and decoding messages. Most of us have been taught how to actively listen, focusing on the other person, paying attention, listening to what they're saying, the importance of repeating back what you've heard. It takes a lot of energy to listen actively, and it can be hard. When I was teaching chaplaincy students, I remember one young woman coming to me, and she was just exhausted. And she said, "I don't know that I can be a chaplain. It is so hard listening to people." Paying attention like that, watching for those little changes in tone and cadence, and watching the face, and trying to keep track of all the things they're saying. I just don't know if I can do it. She really was tired. Fortunately, I was able to talk to her about a different way of listening, something that wasn't quite so exhausting. A way of listening that is enjoyable for both the speaker and the listener, that doesn't just leave you trashed by the end of it. I learned about this type of listening when I was working in a drug rehab center, listening to alcoholics and addicts' fifth steps. So at this particular rehab center, they used the AA 12-step model, and we would ask people to write their fourth step, which was to make a searching and fearless moral inventory of themselves. So we gave people some prompts and some writing guides and suggestions, and we would ask them to go and write down the worst parts of themselves, all of their shameful secrets, all of their character traits that they hated, those things that they'd never told anybody else, those very, very awful, awful things. We'd have them go and write them all down. And then we would ask them to do the fifth step. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Well, that's the kicker. You gotta admit it to another living person. Not just to yourself, not just think about it, not just read what you wrote on the paper, but actually tell another living human being. And there is something tremendously healing about giving your most wretched details, your specifics, to somebody else and having them sit in the room and receive them. To not jump up and go running out, to not scream or squirm or gasp, but to just receive what you have to say. And when I think of the religious idea of confession, that's how I understand it. When you give somebody your very worst, and they can just receive it and take it in and accept you as yourself. When I first started receiving these fifth steps, it was taxing. We'd usually set aside several hours. I would sit and listen to these people. I'd try to keep track of all the wrongs that they'd done and try to think about what am I going to say when they're finished, because, you know, I have to come up with something wise afterward. And it would just get exhausting. Initially, I would have people just read me their fourth steps, and that was boring as could be. And then I started to instead, I was glad that they had written out their fourth step. That was important. They needed to sort of organize their thoughts. But then I would just say, tell me your story. How did you come to be sitting before me in a drug rehab center? How did this all happen? And there was something absolutely fascinating about sitting and listening to somebody, and the only thing I knew was that there was this person and they were alive and they were ahead of me at that moment. When you go to a movie, you kind of know what's going to happen. You can often guess how it's going to go. But when someone tells you their life story, you really have no idea. There is no set arc about how it's going to go. And I was often surprised at the twists and turns that people's lives would take. But I would find that by doing this different type of listening, that I could sit and be quiet, maybe not even do the tell me more, make the little encouraging noises, maybe just be completely quiet for 2 hours and yet not be tired and still be engaged. And the person would still be engaged when I was done. And I found that I started to look forward to these fifth steps. It surprised me. When I learned about this listening, it was called impact listening or passive listening. So instead of straining to actively hear all the content and keep track of it, it was very much about just letting my brain go soft and quiet and empty. And I did not focus on the content. And so often when we think of active listening, we're focusing on the content. What did they say? Here, I would just let my mind go kind of blank and listen. And in doing that, I would often hear what was underneath the words. And then I could reflect that back to the individual. Oh, that sounds like that surprised you. Were you ticked off? Was that confusing for you? Your voice sounded tickled as you told that story. This is so different from the way it usually goes. So I'm guessing that you've been on both sides of this scenario. Perhaps you've been at work or running errands and you come home and a family member tells you all about their day and all about how the kids acted up and there was a fight with the neighbor and the dog got out and chased the mail carrier and then the cat had babies on the new bedspread. And then, you know, wanting to be helpful, you have a few things that you might want to share. You know how that goes? It doesn't go well, does it? No. And the person who's doing the talking generally says, I don't want to be fixed. I just wanted to be heard. Or if you've been on the other side. And let's face it, fixing never goes well. Whether you're the fixer or the fixee, it always leads to resentment. If you're the fixer, you get resentful about always having to fix this other person. And if you're the fixee, you get resentful because there's an implication that you don't know how to handle life and you have to be fixed. Either way, it doesn't go well. But what's very interesting is with this much softer listening, it often takes away this need to fix. Instead, you're connecting with the person on what's happening underneath the words, with the emotions underneath, with their heart. You're sort of aligning and attuning with them. The content doesn't really matter. It's the desire for connection. Now, isn't this backwards from everything you've been taught about listening? It's like, pay attention to the content, focus, 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 and instead go soft. Now, you cannot do this while you're scrolling on your phone, okay? Or while you're reading through your emails. You do need to pay attention and be present. You need to put your body in position so you're paying attention to the other person. Point your feet at them. Have you ever talked to somebody and their feet are the other way? You know, they're just waiting to get out. So put your feet toward the person you're listening to. but then just go soft. You aren't paying attention to the content. And what's absolutely fascinating about this is that I have discovered that I actually remember more content than when I am striving to remember it. And I've noticed this even when I've been listening to presentations or been in a class. So instead of frantically taking notes, I might go soft, let my mind be easy and quiet. It's even easier if the person is excited or intrigued or passionate about what they're saying. And I just listen. And I take in far more, and I hear what's under the words. I remember a time I was serving as a chaplain on our mental health unit. And this was at our day program, and I had two different women. Someone had said to them, "I think you need to talk to the chaplain." And they both had the exact same story. So both of these women were married. They had both promised monogamy to their spouse, and they'd both had an affair, and they had both ended the affair and were trying to move on, but were stuck. And so someone said, "Talk to the chaplain." So I met with the first woman. And I decided to try this passive listening. And so she's talking about the affair, and she's talking about ending it and what's happening for her. And as I'm listening to her, what I become aware of is that she's grieving. And this is a disenfranchised grief, because you can't share this. You don't get sympathy cards for ending an affair. So she doesn't get any support about this. And she feels like she must be wrong for grieving. And so I get to explain to her that no, she's just very human. That it's okay that she's missing somebody she's enjoyed. She gets to go ahead and grieve, and at the same time recommit to her marriage and see about making that better. But underneath her words was the grief. And that's what needed to be affirmed. And that's what I could hear. Not the content, but what was under it. Well, the next woman comes in. Same story. She'd had an affair. She'd ended it. But she just felt so stuck. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy. No, that was not it at all. So I'm listening to her, and one of the things that I do as a chaplain is I try to respond to people according to whatever their own belief system is. So this woman happened to be a Christian. And so she believed in God, and she believed that God was forgiving, and she believed that God could forgive anybody, anything. It's just that God couldn't forgive her. Well, we have a name for that. It's called terminal uniqueness. And I was able to point this out in a way that has some humor to it. It was a little sharp, but she was able to hear it. And she was able to laugh. That somehow her particular misdeed was so huge, bigger than God, that God couldn't even forgive that. But when she realized how very absurd that was, according to her theology, she was able to laugh at that and to start to move on. The content was the same, but underneath was so different. And I don't know if I would have gotten to it if I'd been busy actively listening. I needed to just go soft. And one of the things that's fascinating about this going soft is there's often two responses that we have. One is compassion, and the other is joy. We may have experiences of empathy, we might not. The goal isn't to mimic what the other person is feeling. But when we feel compassion for somebody, we often also tap into feelings of respect and the belief that they'll manage this. We don't have to fix them. We can be compassionate about their situation. Or perhaps they have something happy that they're telling us about, and we can connect to them in a joyful way. So even when I'm hearing something like a fifth step that is not particularly uplifting, I can feel compassion in hearing these stories, even though they are not pleasant stories and it's not holding this person in the very best light. I can have compassion, and I can hear what's underneath. And then I can reflect that back to the person I'm hearing. This passive listening gives us very different experiences. In literature, there's basically 7 different types of stories. I won't go over all of those for you. But think of how different the telling is. The world is full of different stories. Well, as I get older, I hear the same stories a lot. But what's under them is what's so different. And that's the part that I want to connect with. I don't want to connect to the content. I want to connect to what's underneath. Bob's given me permission to share this piece because the first time he's heard me talk about this, he was thrilled. Because my beloved loves me and he wants to fix me. And when I will talk about my day at work and how hard it's been and how tough it is and what idiots these people are, not that I said that out loud, he'll want to say something to make it better. And then when he found out he doesn't have to, he can just go soft, connect with whatever it is that's under the words, and reflect that back to me. Now he has something to do. He doesn't have to reflect the content to me. He doesn't have to give me advice. He doesn't have to help me work it out. Chances are I can do that all by myself. But instead, he can reflect back, wow, that was difficult. Sounds like you're frustrated. Yeah, they are all idiots, whatever it is that we need to say. But it's that connection that I'm looking for. And think about it. If you listen to somebody and you are not connecting with what's going on under the words, what happens? They use more words, don't they? They get louder. They get longer. They keep going. Try an experiment. The next time that you are wanting to get back to your phone or you're wanting to get back to your project and somebody wants to talk to you, see what happens if you go soft and go blank and just let it flow over you and then reflect back to them that connection. Chances are it will be more efficient. It will be faster. But if they can tell you aren't hearing them, they're going to talk more. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep pounding on the door trying to be heard. But if you can let them know that you have connected. Remember teenagers on the phone for hours who said nothing? The whole point was about the connection, wasn't it? It was just about the connecting. That's what so much of our conversation is. Now, there will be times when this type of listening is not what you want to do. You don't want to do impact or passive listening. There are times when you want to keep scrolling through your phone as somebody blathers on. Sometimes that's the appropriate response. Sometimes you do want to listen for content, and that's what you want to pay attention to. And sometimes what you want to do is let the content just flow over you. And it's fascinating how much more you'll actually remember. And you're smart people, so you'll catch on really quick. But sometimes it's not the content that people are wanting you to hear. It's what's going on underneath. And that's where the variety is. The stories get to be the same after a while. It's what's going on underneath. This type of listening is so much easier. It's so much gentler. When I was able to introduce this to my students, they found that it wasn't hard to go and listen to people. They didn't come away exhausted and trashed and thinking, I can't be a chaplain. They came away feeling uplifted and connected and compassion, even when the conversations were not uplifting and joyous. They still came away feeling better about themselves and about the other person. So today I offer you just a different way of listening, a different way of sitting and being with somebody, something that's much easier. A little hard to turn off the mind, but you can do that. And then just reflect back what you hear. As you go forward this week, I invite you to listen deeply and passionately and quietly. Don't struggle to hear, but open your heart and your mind and experiment with this. See what happens when you aren't focusing on the particulars and when you allow yourself to be touched by the person. Paul Tillich, who was a very famous theologian, said, the first duty of love is to listen. So may you listen with ease and grace. May you silence your mind and hear more than words. May you teach others how to listen beautifully to you. And may we all be better listeners than we are drivers. Amen and amen. So one of the things I love about our UU theology is that even though I might stand at the big pulpit, I'm not handing down to you what you need to believe. That you are responsible for the search for truth and meaning. And you know so much. So I want to hear from you folks. We have Jane somewhere. There's Jane. Jane is going to run a microphone around. We're going to have just a few minutes for some dialogue. But you folks have experiences with listening and being heard. You folks know some stuff about this. I would love to hear from you. And maybe you can think about what makes the difference between when you know you're heard and when you don't feel heard.
Well, I actually think that what you just posed is a great question. So how would you answer that?
For me, I think about with Bob, if they start back with advice, I wasn't heard. Or if they start back with the content, I probably wasn't heard. But if they can reflect to me a little bit of, and I might not actually be aware of what was under the emotions, and I might need to be asked, gee, what stood out for you about that? Oh, we have someone in the back. Thank you. Shelley spelled correctly.
One thing that I like is if someone, I feel like I'm heard if someone maybe says, okay, so it sounds to me like you're feeling disappointed about what happened at work. Am I getting that right? Because then they're like asking me to be like, yes, you got it, or give me an opportunity to correct them and be more specific. Like, no, I don't feel disappointed. I actually feel kind of regretful that I wasn't as prepared as I thought I should have been, or whatever it is.
So when they ask you, give you the choice, yes.
I don't know if it's relevant, but an interesting observation, which I don't really understand, but my wife here, Becca Brackett, is a reader. She's always reading it. And sometimes I will say something while she's reading, and she will get to the end of her paragraph and respond to me. It's like, it's going in there even though...
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can read while you listen this way.
Rebecca. So Perry and I are trying to raise our children radically different from the way that we were raised, which is considering that our children are actually human people with their own thoughts and feelings that they're allowed to have. And so something that we are working really hard to get better at is doing this kind of listening with our children, because it's so easy to think, I know what's wrong, I see this meltdown, I've seen it before, can we just do the thing? And that hasn't been working very well, to tell them that I know what they're thinking and that I know what they need to do. And so that is a thing that we are not amazing at yet, but it has really started making a difference, especially with our 6-year-old.
Thank you.
My name is Karen. I'm just thinking about if you were having a conversation with a professional, like a lawyer or a doctor, and they needed to hear your content very desperately. They very need to, and they get annoyed sometimes when you go off and you're too emotional and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering I feel like what you presented today is most applicable in interpersonal interactions, but I'm wondering what advice you have for professionals to apply this when they still need to listen to the content.
So there are times when content is the focus. You're absolutely right. I do want my lawyer to be able to say, yeah, you sound frustrated and please don't kill anyone. And yet I do need them to pay attention to the content. So hopefully they can do both, but this isn't applicable for everything. So you're absolutely right there. And I will tell you that I do use this often when I am the helping professional and I am counseling somebody. And I have found that when I let my mind go soft and blank, I actually give better answers.
Hi, my name is Rick, and I heard a quote several times recently. It said, I lost it here. We will work to repair harm and damage to relationships. I'd like to see that happening here. And we also have a right relations policy, and I'd like to see us following that more appropriately. Thank you.
And do we have anyone else before we... One more. It's a good thing you're quick, Jane.
My name is Bonnie. I have found that this helps me intrapersonally. If I wake up grumpy, I can say, I'm grumpy. Why am I so grumpy today? And when I get down to why am I so grumpy today, I'm listening to what's underneath my grumpy behavior. This helped me once when I was walking around feeling very sad for a long time, 2 weeks. Why am I so sad? And I said, I know why I'm sad. I'm grieving, and this is what I'm grieving about. So I find that this helps me listen to my inner voice, or whatever that is inside that tells me who I really am.
Thank you. That is a lovely thought to end on. Perfect. This is why I love the dialogue. I always come away with good stuff. Would you join with me in responsive reading 661? And we'll split the congregation kind of down the middle. And this side will do regular size, and this side will do the bold size type. or the italicized, I guess. We have a great deal more kindness than is ever spoken. How many persons we meet in houses whom we scarcely speak to, whom yet we honor and who honor us. How many we see in the street or sit with in church, whom though silently we warmly rejoice in it. Read the language of these wandering eye-beams. Blessed be.
Well, we get to sing 3 times today. The third one is Love Will Guide Us, 131, that we all know pretty well. So please stand as you're willing and able, and the words will be on the screen.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Riedessel, and I'm a member of the board of the Foundation of First Unitarian Society. First Unitarian Society is an independent and self-governing humanist community. As members and friends of this community, we share the gifts of our time and energy, our creativity, our imagination and vision, our talents, our skills, and our treasure. Your financial support is an important element in turning our shared vision into reality. As the baskets are passed, you are invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. You can use the QR code on the screen, which will take you to our online giving form, or you can stop by the office or mail in your donation. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions about giving to First Unitarian Society.
No, we're not. Are we good? There we go. Okay, perfect timing. Hi, everybody. Hello, good morning. My name is Zola, Zola Rosenfeld. I am the education director here at First Unitarian Society. And I am joined today by Peter Discoli, who I will pass the mic to in just a moment. Thank you all for joining us. We have a little bit of an extended assembly today, but we're going to do our best to keep it brief. And you're going to see me go like this to Peter, which means next question. We've already discussed it. He takes no offense. Don't worry. So OWL, Our Whole Lives, is a gender and sexuality curriculum for all ages. And we're basically going to do a quick frequently asked questions kind of panel for you guys. And we would love for you to come find us afterwards during mini meal if anybody would like to talk further about this. So Peter, if you feel right, first of all, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Oh, Peter Discoli, OWL. I've been involved with OWL since about 1999, 2000. George, how long has it been? Longer than that. Okay.
There you go. So you can see why we have actually a lot of OWL facilitators in this room, but Peter has been the keeper of the knowledge for many years. And as this knowledge keeps updating, which we'll discuss as well, I thought this would be an opportune time before we jump into the program here to talk a little bit about this, about OWL. Peter, for the OWL curriculum, can you tell us about the overarching definition of sexuality that is used?
You got the slide? Okay, there we go. So sexuality, when we talk about it or think about it, or what is the common thoughts about it, it's fairly limited, I would argue. But in the OWL curriculum, this is the definition we use through all the OWL programs, various ages. And I'll quickly go through them. So the first one at the top is sensuality, and that has as much to do with how you're connecting, feeling about the relationship. Intimacy has a little bit more to do with, for lack of a better word, the physical connection in that regard. The third one is sexual identity, which becomes complex sometimes, straightforward sometimes, but how you feel about yourself as a person. The third one is sexual health and reproduction. That's where, Zola doesn't like me to say this, but this is the birds and bees, when you come down to, let's have that talk. And the last one is sexualization, and that has to do with the darker side of sexuality, when sexuality is being used for something else. The best example I can give is you see the ads for cigarettes or now drugs too on television. You see some sexual message that's being given. It's not have anything to do with sex. It has to do with selling you the car. So that would be a sexualization. It can get worse than that, but I think that's the simplest way I can describe that.
Thank you so much, Peter. So for those of us who aren't familiar, can you tell us a little bit about the history of OWL, why it was created, and also, since it was created a long time ago at this point, how has it been updated and revised to be more current and relevant to things today?
So the idea of OWL started, before 2000, someplace. There were a couple of ministers walking on a beach, some UUC, some UUA, United Church of Christ is the UUC. And we had a program called About Your Sexuality, AYS, that had been going on for at least 20-some years. And at that point, the little 80-millimeter films were starting to break apart. The content was starting to get old, and it needed revision. But when the conversation turned, what are we going to do? It was decided we had to do more than just teach junior high kids about sexuality. So they developed an entire life, our whole life sexuality. What should I say about that? And you haven't done your circle yet, so I'll keep going. The idea of sexuality obviously changes socially, as we've all noticed with time, or all see with time. And so that the sexuality, the curriculums have had to be revised. I happen to have this blue one up here that was given to me because I was one of the early facilitators. And this is great, but it's a second edition. And if anybody tried to run through this, there's a lot of things missing. So the UUA and UCC have committed to monies to their programs, to the OWL program, so that it's continually being revised by some of the experts and put out a new edition regularly. So it's a commitment of the UUA and the UCC to this program, which has helped keep it alive on a much larger scale.
Awesome. So we know that the curriculum is updated on a pretty frequent basis using experts, using, highly resource-trained people. Can you tell us more about, in congregations or in secular settings sometimes, who are the facilitators for OWL on a small scale, and how are they trained?
So the classes, for lack of a better word to say it, the gathering is run by a facilitator, somebody who is using this curriculum. And so the curriculum is built in one way, but the commitment of the UUA and UCC is that it's much larger than that, in the sense that there are people who are trainers, who have been trained. This vocabulary gets difficult at times, but they're trainers, and they've had a special course on how to train facilitators. And facilitators come from the congregations. Now, it's bigger than that because some people outside congregations think it's a great curriculum and come to learn about it too. But basically, if you're going to give this curriculum, the UCC and UUA have made it a rule, made it a thing that the people who are giving the facilitation have to be trained. So the trainers train the facilitators, and then the facilitators then use these books to go through the class, as it were.
Absolutely. So speaking of the fact that there are different OWL courses for each age range, each of those curriculums is pretty intensive, so we're not going to be able to give you a total overview of what's covered in each of them, but we have some sample topics and Peter's that I wrote up here that are pulled directly from each of the curriculums, and Peter's going to tell us a little bit about more detail about what those what particular topics and projects and activities happen in different age ranges.
So it's going to be impossible to go through all the details, but just to go, the first curriculum, the first one where teaching goes on is at the kindergarten, first grade. And at that point, we're talking about permission, touch, different anatomy, basic things that just gives the idea of what sexuality is about with actually not using that word necessarily. One of the examples I use is there's different genders, and so they have baby dolls that actually have genitals. Do you know how hard it is to find genitals on baby dolls? It's almost impossible. It took me a long time to find a couple of them. So at any rate, that would be the kindergarten, first grade. In the fourth, sixth grades, fascinating because they are learning about vocabulary. And I don't know about you, but some of the vocabulary I learned from other 10 and 12-year-olds who had as little sense as I did about the whole thing. And so some of the words were just, what does that mean? But this way, the kids at this point have a vocabulary, a capacity to talk about things with knowledge. In other words, that means this, not what you're saying. And so it's great because of the capacity to now say the words and know what they are. Seventh and ninth grade is really where we start to get in, for lack of better words, the guts of the thing. That's a 24, 26-week facilitation. So often it goes through the entire year from September to May or June. It's, like I said, much more intense, much bigger, and certainly two simple things, not that they're simple, but gender and sexual identity are part of what we're talking about there, or that we're being exposed to, the students are being exposed to. When I say we, oftentimes when I was facilitating, it was like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, we'll keep going. So we all learn about it, some of it. So the senior high, we often have a review sort of the second view. Thank you, Bob. We have the second, it's like a continuation of the junior high, but a little bit more. So in that one, it used to be we'd go to the Pride Parade in the senior high, or we'd do something a little bit more active at some times. than adults is fascinating because you're getting, what does it say up there, an understanding issues of addressing sexuality. And there was adult curriculum, but it found that we needed a young adult curriculum and an older adult curriculum. So there's all three right now. And you can imagine older adult curriculums, for back of way of saying it, you know, we all have prostate. If we're males or consider ourselves or we're born male, we have a prostate issue sometimes. What's that do to our sexuality? And certainly women who are born women or who have gone through hormonal changes will likely go through a menopause of some sort. And what's that do to our sexuality? And if you're young and 30 years old, you are navigating a difficult time, life of how do you deal with, you know, in the bars or whatever, sexuality and where you're leading from there. So at any rate, there is specifics for each age group and each group.
Thank you so much, Peter. So we wanted to talk about kind of some anecdotal examples of ways people have benefited from OWL. I think we don't have time for that right now. I think Peter did a good job of giving some of those anecdotes along the way. I want to quickly plug on our final slide that you can register for OWL now, and we are starting up with K through 1 in October. We have 5th and 6th grade OWL happening in the spring. And adult OWL is happening this year, and I have no idea when the last time it was offered, but it is happening, and I'm very thrilled about it, and that's the one we actually currently have the least number of registrants for. So this is a call out to anybody who, I mean, honestly, I would love to take this class. I can't at this congregation myself. For me, yeah, you can imagine, but I am very excited about it happening here, and you have time to register. It's not happening till winter, but we wanted to put the word out. And as we said, Peter and I will be around during mini meal. We would love to talk to you about this further today or any day, but today we happen to be especially prepared. So thank you all so much for your time. Peter, I'll give the mic back to you if you got any more.
So before we quit, anybody who has taught or involved with the OWL program, will you please stand up?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I was going to forget that.
Yes. So as you can see, this congregation, this group has been deeply involved with OWL for decades. Deb and George sitting over there, Deb's come back. She's so wonderful to have her there. You know, they taught junior high OWL for 20 years, every other year. They were totally committed. I mean, it was amazing. And all the people who stood up are committed to spending a lot of time.
Yes, we could not do it without all of you. Thank you so much. I was going to almost forget that. No, that would have been bad. So I'm glad we said that. Now, all of you we are so grateful for all of you. And another good example of how, you know, UUs and humanists are collaborating to make the world a better place. We appreciate you all. All right, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, I'm Heather Martens, the chair of the FUS Board of Trustees, and I am here with some good news. We have just signed a 3-year lease with a new tenant starting September 1st. Acumen Academy, which is affiliated with Metro Charter School, we'll be using our first and second floor classrooms and sharing our kitchen, lower assembly hall, and chalice room. Many of the people in school leadership and staff are from the Somali community, and we're excited to make this new connection. And this is also good news for FUS financially, as it will bring in this first year about half of what the previous tenant, LoveWorks, was paying in that first year and increasing thereafter. Together with the receipt of about $100,000 from LoveWorks' settlement with its creditors, we are starting this program year with a much brighter financial picture. May this coming year be full of connection, community, and a lot more justice.
That is good news. So just a couple of final announcements this morning. We're gearing up for new visitors this fall. This is an annual phenomenon, and as you may know, we will be doing a little bit of advertising this fall as well. And so in order to be as prepared as possible to welcome visitors, today there will be a welcome ambassador training in the Skyline Room at this hall at the end on the right. At 12:15, and you're invited to come brainstorm ways to boost our welcoming skills, to create an elevator pitch, and to reflect on what brings value to our community experience. This training is hosted by the membership committee and is for anyone who wishes to play a role in connecting with visitors this fall. Also at 12:15, the Seasonal Celebrations team invites you to join them in the Dietrich room right across the hall here for a fall equinox workshop. The weather today reminds us that the equinox is coming, and when we do our annual event here in September, there will be opportunities for people of all ages to read, whether it's part of a skit or reading poetry or otherwise. And so please feel free to join the Seasonal Celebrations team in that room across the way. Another reminder that our annual water ceremony is coming up on September 7th. That's 2 weeks from today. You're invited to collect a bit of water from some special place that is meaningful to you and to bring it with you to the FUS that day. Now, finally, if you're not here in person, may you find ways to enjoy the rest of the afternoon, hopefully by sharing some time with friends. And for those who are here in person, please join us downstairs for our mini meal. Today, our mini meal includes crock pot ham and black beans on basmati rice, which is gluten-free, white beans, garlic, and tomato with spinach, which is gluten-free and vegan, and a good day for banana cake. Every day is a good day for banana cake, as far as I'm concerned, and that is vegan. Please note that lunch is pay what you can, which for some may mean nothing. So if you can put in a little bit extra, that just helps us make it possible to provide lunch for visitors and those who are unable to contribute. That is it for our announcements. I do want to thank everybody for their joyful and capable participation this morning. Our incredible staff, the tech crew, cooks and their helpers, our greeters, Joyce, Carol, Perry, Mike, Jane, and of course our visitors and guests, Shelley and Bob, who shared their words this morning. And at this point, I'd like to invite Perry to come back up as we extinguish our chalice. Our traditional extinguishing words will appear on the screen in just a moment, and I invite you to join. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. And finally, Shelley will join us again for a few closing words.
Let us go gracefully into the days ahead, guided by open hearts and careful minds. Let us strive to make our lives brighter and our world better by listening carefully and generously, encouraging surprising connections and insights born of compassion and joy. May it be so. Amen.
Now we're officially done.
Thank you so much.